Thank you for being here, everybody. My name is Ilona Selke. As you know, I have today the most amazing, auspicious guest, Elena Tonetti, who has dedicated her entire life to the magic of, and that's how I first got to know her, birthing with dolphins. Birthing not as agony, but as ecstasy. That's what she teaches. And how to return and relieve ourselves of the birth trauma imprints that we might have experienced and therefore then repeat in our lives, to undo them. Her powerful seminars and workshops, her presence, her knowledge. Elena, I am so grateful. Your films are worth watching. Birth into Being and Birth as We Know It, your upcoming book along those lines, and your upcoming workshop on the 6th of November in Medford, Oregon. I want us all to know it. This is 2025 in case you watch it before then. I have got to know you like decades ago when we were in Hawaii. We met swimming with dolphins and you came and visited because of my book and dolphins. Today I want to interview you about the power of self-development so we can release ourselves of trauma. I got a letter about some Indian couple wanting to give dolphin birth. So because this is extraordinary, I want to maybe start out there. The questions I asked you back then is, you worked with the one and only Charkovsky with a CH, not with a T. I would love to know, what are some highlights that you could share with us, first of all, about dolphins and the power of human and dolphin connection, super consciousness, and what it takes to be prepared for birth? This is a long, big question. You can answer it in many ways. There you go.
Right? Like, how much time do we have to answer
Forever.
all those questions? But let's see. Igor Charkovsky wasn't one of the forerunners in that he was the modern pioneer of this concept. Um, Of course, we later found out that water birth, dolphin birth was part of the cultures in Polynesia, in ancient Egypt, in ancient Greece, that's how priestesses and oracles were giving birth. But when he came up with this idea, we didn't know about it. He had this very, very amazing capacity to perceive many layers of realities, many realities at the same time. And often it was very confusing to him because he sincerely could not sometimes tell which reality is which and where we are physically. I met him in 1982.
Right.
By then, he convinced 5 women to give birth in water. And that's why we actually met, because I was part of this group of young Russians that were running with ideas of brainstorming technology. So somebody asked me to see if I would meet him, and if I find these ideas worthy, maybe we can help him brainstorm how to make it more mainstream. And that's exactly what happened. And what happened was Igor was working with every pregnant woman that he was preparing for birthing. And as he was putting her in a slight trance, and sometimes not so slight, to find out what could be the reasons for possible future complications during her delivery. That was the whole point of his one-on-one sessions with pregnant women. He was psychically offering space for her to see what happened in her past, or in her mother's past, or in her grandmother's, or like 7 generations down, what could have happened back then that is now creating some kind of symptoms that she is displaying. So that was his work with pregnant women. And I was assisting him in those sessions, so I watched a lot of those sessions firsthand, just being right there. And every other woman would come up in that deep trance. She would come up with some images of her baby swimming with dolphins.
Wow.
And she would describe it, and she was like, go into like really high like you would look at her and think that she's on LSD or something, but there was no substances whatsoever. We actually didn't even know about any substances. So they were in this deep state describing relationships with cetaceans. Sometimes it would be whales, sometimes it would be dolphins, and there was such a strong theme showing up over and over and over that at some point after one of those sessions he turned to me and said, well, it looks like we need to like go find where we can like meet the dolphins. And I'm like, okay, well, I was
Oh,
organizing stuff for all of this happening, so I knew that it would be on me. And I was like, okay, where can I find you dolphins at 3 in the morning? You know?
so he
So
was the precursor to this event, was the women having these visions on their own as they were going into their own
yeah,
previous
right.
generational trauma or non-trauma or discovery of
Right.
what imprints.
Nobody was putting it in their head. It was completely like non-existent. It was all those pregnant women were reporting visions from their deep states of being surrounded by dolphins in many different circumstances, different ones. So we started looking for dolphins, and that was 1982. It was like a really long time ago. So we finally, in 86 was the first expedition to the Black Sea, and in summer in shallow lagoons, the water is warm
Okay.
because the shallow lagoons get warmed up enough, and Black Sea doesn't have sharks. So that was to our advantage.
Very good. So the lagoons have what temperature? I mean, like when you say warm to me, that's like 90-ish.
Well, yeah, nobody actually went into the deep. Only two women out of hundreds that gave birth there. They were just standing in the shallow waters, up to their hips, maybe just, well, moving and swimming during labor and doing all kinds of, changing positions. But two of them actually went, propelled one of them, Katya, she just went propelling herself into the deep and had a baby right there in with no bottom. Like she didn't have anything to push against. She was just pushing, swirling through the water. But that was her fifth baby. The
She
all of
was,
the she knew what she's doing.
and there were dolphins nearby.
Dolphins would be nearby. Dolphin birth, it's not like they would come and stick their noses in between your legs. Nothing like that. It was just their presence. They would sing and play and jump around and walk by again and walk by again. But somehow everybody noticed that when when they come shortly after the woman goes into like feels the contractions, that the the original rush in the birth camp when everybody is like, okay, another one, um, it would just settle and it would be like different temperature or something. It would be just everything will be fine. It's like it's the presence um, was very palpable and very clear, even though it took dolphins a while to um, accept our company,
Yeah.
to say the least, because before that, they only knew people as fisheries, they were really not treated nicely. So it took a while for them to start playing with, but only pregnant women. In the Black Sea, I never got to play with them because I was not pregnant.
You weren't pregnant.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they eventually did figure, I mean, because one of the things that we noticed in the West, in Hawaii, for example, is that they sonar women's bellies. One woman had a cyst and she swam. I write about it in my book, The Wisdom of the Dolphins. And she swam for 3 months in that bay in Hawaii. And they would come and sonar her belly as though there was something. But after 3 months, the cyst went away. So they are known to come to women who are pregnant and pay attention to their belly. They kind of have their 3D
right,
X-ray vision. Yeah.
right.
So they
But
now came to you guys.
dolphins,
Mhm.
yeah, dolphins in Kalakakua Bay are uh,
I,
more familiar with people and more relaxed with the presence, and they're
yes.
playful and they're in great numbers
Yeah.
to really like feel safe with people in that bay. But not so much in the Black Sea. In 86 when we got there first time, we spent hours and hours and hours meditating on the beach, offering them all kinds of thought
Beautiful
forms and uh,
offering.
offering our intention and
Beautiful.
asking them to come play with us. It was basically just a group meditation circles to really let them let them know us, introduce ourselves, that we have all those babies here that want to connect with them,
Yep.
that we're safe. There was a lot of that
Preparation.
put out, yeah, and there was not actual contacts for the first 3 years. It was really a lot of effort put um,
Okay.
into that connection. The first time when I had my personal experience there, I actually nearly became their lunch because I got in the way. They didn't think much of us. They didn't really have any reason to care because
They
they
had
had
just,
a lot of casualties from people
yep, they
that
had
did
been
not
chased.
treat them well. Yeah. So I happened to be in between the dolphins and tuna, and they blasted tuna, and I got paralyzed, and it was very far from the shore.
Oh, they used their sonar to paralyze the tuna, and you were paralyzed through their
Yeah,
sonar.
that's how
Oh
they
my,
hunt. They
yes.
don't
Oh
sweat the
my
small
God.
stuff. They just sent
Funny.
out the blast, and then they catch up with the paralyzed fish.
Fish and
And
eat them.
I happened to be in the way, and it was not fun at all. You
Oh
know,
my God.
I was just uh, and I was able to see, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move at all, and I just looked at them how they just
Oh,
went by me, completely unimpressed with me. They recognized that
it,
I wasn't
dinner.
lunch.
At least they didn't
Yeah,
mistake you for tuna. That's a good
thank
thing.
goodness,
That
because my
is,
legs were spread in that position when I got paralyzed. It was not funny at all. I mean, it is funny the way I'm like stuck in there in the middle of nowhere and them moseying by me. But somehow
right. So you're
the
the
way,
only person that I know who's ever gotten paralyzed through the sonar or dolphin. Did you notice by chance? I mean, this is a particular sonar. I want to ask you a specific question. I've noticed when I went out, even with handicapped children, that when the children got sonared, or adults, that's when I saw the biggest psychological shift in people. I mean, there was I made it to the dolphins, I'm swimming with dolphins, I'm doing this. This is always in the wild. And mind you, dear watchers, viewers here, you can vote with your dollars. Never, ever give your dollars to captive dolphins, ever, because that way you eliminate a lot of torture on sentient beings that are beyond what I think humans are even capable of. But
I
anyway,
totally agree.
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
totally agree.
But I mean, the
Um,
question is the sonar that they applied to you, did it do something to you afterwards where you can like go, I even more reached my purpose in life? Because that's, I mean, I've seen children who never spoke a word be able to speak
hmm.
within days after that. I mean, it's like stunning what happened to children, especially handicapped children where we could see, but specifically when they got sonar. So any of that correlation on?
Well, it's hard to separate the state from the church in that sense because, I spent 3 months every summer butt naked with only Milky Way above me and horizon and the big mountain behind me.
Oh,
It's like that does something to you. It's
that's the
not
dream come
possible.
true. Elena, you've lived out of the box your entire life. Mind
I
you,
did.
a good portion of that in a government that was watching their citizens very carefully. Um,
Well, our luck was that there was no computers, no surveillance system. Our birth camps were by invitation only. There was no, social networks, and no
mhm,
computers, no,
just
no emails. There was nothing. So it was only by word of mouth, and it was only the people that went through the whole program of preparation in Moscow before they would be handpicked to come to the Black Sea. So when I am saying that we had 100% success, that we never had a plan B, thank God, because we never needed it. It's never even as much of as little stitch. There was absolutely nothing ever happened in
amazing.
those birth
Amazing.
camps.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is birthing in wild water. I mean, okay, so uh, tell us some nuggets of that experience. And then also what women can do when they don't live near the Black Sea or Hawaii or somewhere, because even in Hawaii, there is no place to do dolphin birth in the water. You and I tried to suss that
Know it
out back
very
then.
much. Yeah. And in the video that you can attach the link to, that
Okay,
a YouTube trailer for my 75-minute documentary where I show 11 orgasmic births, you can see that one of the births there is in Hawaii, but in a jacuzzi. Because while she was swimming with dolphins every single day for hours, she did not find a place to actually give birth
right,
off the shore anywhere because the waves are too big, the sharks are too close, the water is too cold, the tourists are plenty walking around everywhere. You have to have a very private place where you can be undisturbed. First of all, because the birthing field, when a woman goes into labor, it's a vortex. It's like this vortex of energy that is incredibly powerful. Anything new that is coming into existence from non-existence creates the birthing field. And everything that is in the environment of this birthing is going to be thrown in. Like when you're making a smoothie in a blender, whatever you throw into that is going to be part of the smoothie. So the same as with the birthing field. You don't want anybody with their anxiety about birth, with their own birth trauma, with their preconceived notions, what you should be doing, because seems like everybody knows better than you, right? So anybody who is carrying their own unresolved, unneutralized birth trauma is going to affect the quality of your vortex of your birthing field. So the privacy is very important. And that's one of the biggest dramas in the hospital, for example, because the nurses, the midwives, the doctors rarely know that they need to neutralize their own birth trauma. Or even if the father of the baby is present, if the mother of the woman is present, that brings a whole other can of worms, because the dynamic could be very unsupportive of the frequencies of opening and relaxing and surrendering and allowing the baby to come out. The relationship with your sister that is there, maybe your mother-in-law, or whoever is there, it makes it more difficult. So it's really important to create the space. But what we found through years and years of working with this is that number one source of complications in the delivery is the woman's relationship with self. Whether she is in her center of gravity, whether she knows that she has a center of gravity, whether she is done her homework, when she knows who she is, why she is, what she is doing, why she is having this baby, why now, why with this man. All of those questions actually play into that dynamic of being able or not being able to be in her full power, so, in the delivery.
Absolutely.
And that number one thing, that ability of deep knowing of why this woman is walking this earth right now, and why is she bringing this child right now. Those kind
Those
of
are big
quintessential
questions that most people.
quintessential questions of existence, really. But from there stems another set of uh, issues that need to be resolved. Like the woman's own birth trauma is often the biggest interference to that state of being when everything is in alignment, her body, her soul, and her spirit. It's like that alignment is when a woman is in her power. But with her birth trauma, it might have happened that she is kind of out of focus with that it's all together. She has all of it, but they're not linked in, not synced
Lined up.
in, the modern term. And she's like wobbling over her own axis and doesn't really feel the sense of self or direction. So neutralizing her birth trauma, that's like number one step. Then it needs to be the neutralizing the birth trauma of her partner, the father of the baby, if he is going to be present in her life with all of that. Then like everybody who is present in the delivery room, that or in the delivery nature, they need to have a very strong relationship with their own existence. That's basically what birth trauma does, that it pushes us into this state of dissociation when we're don't remember, like, who am I? What am I doing here? Why am I here? Oh, that must have been a mistake. From that place, it's very hard to give birth.
And it's very hard for people to manifest from that state. So
Exactly.
actually, I
Exactly.
find that the same questions apply deeply to how well we live our life, how well we manifest our purpose. And I think anybody who wants to become better at creating their own life, their manifestation of their purpose, needs to go through those questions that you offer in your workshops. And not only women who are birthing, but actually anybody who wants to birth themselves into being. And I think that's an appropriate title that one of your
Well, that's exactly why the course is called Birth into Being. And as I started in 82, working with just pregnant women, pregnant couples, the last 15 years of my career, I taught in 58 countries in the last 25 years before the COVID hit. Um, and only a quarter of my groups were pregnant. The three quarters were coming for their own
Birthing,
um,
birthing
the-
into their own being.
yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Let me
Yeah,
ask.
because it's exactly the point that every day when we're not birthing ourselves, we're dying.
Mm, right. That is true when we're not communing. And I like your spiraling image. It actually brings in the cosmic into form, and it brings the unmanifest into a specific form that we each are, and the vehicle becomes purified. And that's what the life work is about. Right. So I think
Yeah.
the force of gravity, very few people talk about the spiral dynamics, and even for manifesting, the spiral dynamics of our soul is the gravitational force field. When I spoke with at the Prophets Conference, Edgar Mitchell was put into a think tank from the government with other amazing scientists, and they were to figure out what the source for gravity was, what gravity was. And they basically, if I were to put it in layman's terms, I would say consciousness or thoughts create gravitational fields. It is the intention or focus on any one thing that starts a gravitational pull from the supremely luminous to the dense and then into form. The birthing into being is exactly that motion. So you're really profoundly touching not only into birthing uh, babies, but really birthing into being our own selves as a vessel, and then things that we want to transmit and transmute. Can I ask you for a visual? Like I asked you before, but I'd like to remind us of that question one more time. The visual experience. Okay, here's a woman giving the birth. She's spinning forward. She's giving birth. She holds the baby in her arm. Now, I read a year later, I think Charkovsky's children went back to, or was it a year or so? They had anniversaries, right? Something like that. Do I remember that correctly? Where they went back to the bay of their birth?
Well, it happened naturally that women who had their birth there, they would become helpers for other women. So they would come back to support other women and come with the whole tribe with their babies and their older children. So there was a lot of kids at the camps. Yeah,
How did they ever get to swim with the dolphins? Did they then,
they did. Yeah.
and how was that? What happened there?
Oh, it's
Did the
beautiful.
dolphins recognize any one of them?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know how they feel, how they,
Recognized, maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I just know that those kids are amazing,
Okay,
you know.
I'm
That's what it,
I'll just would love to then focus on the kids. I will tell you, in my experience, when we owned a dolphin boat in Florida and took people out, there was one dolphin that took a liking to Dawn, and her name was Grandy, and she would regularly, in a couple of years' time, and over the 30 years that we went there, have babies. And I remember one November we had gone there, and they are the only species besides humans, I think close to the only species that intentionally give birth. They don't go into heat and then give birth. They actually seem they have their timing. But anyway, she brought her 2-day-old baby. She singled Dawn out from the boat, and she brought her baby. And instead of putting what normally dolphins would do is have Dawn there, herself here, and the baby here to protect the baby, she put the baby between herself and Dawn. This is after years of knowing who Dawn was, and she would always beeline to Dawn and take him away from the others out to swim alone with him. Now, like you said, these were dolphins that were used to humans. I had a sweetheart, and he singled me out. So there were others that took interest in certain humans. And I was just wondering if somehow the dolphins kind of had an interest in the kids that were in the water at birth. I don't know. But as you say, that's difficult to observe.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Yeah,
Um,
just a question.
I
So
don't know.
what
Yeah.
were the signs of the children who were born like that? What were some of the specialties?
All of us born in the Soviet Union had this kind of in the corners of our eyes, there was fear lingering that was this like we had to behave certain way, we had to learn the rules, and those kids did not have anything in the corners of their eyes. They were just so open and relaxed and direct and smart and very clear, and they were not shying away from life, from being curious, from just they were strong and healthy. And I don't know if it's related to because their parents were that kind of people, the adventurous enough to go in the middle of nowhere with no plan B. And it takes a very special kind of people
Yeah,
to do something like that. And I don't know. See, there was never any kind of deliberate study
yeah,
done with specific questions. We were just doing what we wanted to do, what we loved to do, and there was no follow-up. We didn't even have a list. Like when I was working on my documentary, one of the women in the movie that gives birth solo, when you see that the baby is coming through and the camera goes up and she has this divine smile on her face and she's very deep and quiet in her meditation and she's looking at something. I asked her later, like, what were you looking at? That's like a small, short, low ceiling in Russian apartments. And she said, I was flying among galaxies. I was just one of the galaxies. I was so big. And she had this the most amazing divine smile on her face as the baby's head popped out of her. You can see it on the video. And she was also one of organizers. It was her fourth baby born that way. And when I was working on the film, I called her, said, let's try to figure out how many kids were born that way. And we sat there for like a few days trying to um,
remember
trying
the
to figure
details.
out like, and I would say, oh yeah, there was this one couple, and she said no, that was previous year. And then at some point it wasn't just one lagoon, it was a set of lagoons, so they were different, a few camps, because there was more people than can fit into one lagoon. And we got lost, we were not able to hit even the ballpark how many births were there, because nobody thought of writing it down, like having uh, some kind
Metric,
of
right. So all these people, that was after the fall of the wall, after the breakup of the Soviet Union into all
well,
these.
no, that was before. The first camp was in 86.
Oh, that was
And
before.
then
Okay,
the Berlin Wall fell in 89 at
right.
the end of the year. And
Nine,
then a few more years, we
89,
had
right?
a
Wasn't
full
it 80?
reign when, see, we were in a gap between realities. We were to do because there was no such thing. So there was no prohibition of such thing.
Yeah,
We
right.
were the pioneers. We were, doing something that was not prohibited yet. But in mid 90s, we got so big that somebody um, leaked that it was found out and it was prohibited.
Oh, just to
So,
repeat for our viewers, you meant 1989. I know when I'm in Europe, I'm German and I count the numbers backwards when I say it in English. It's the reverse. It was 1989, right? So just to
yeah,
for us to get the facts straight. No, not that we get
yeah,
somebody saying you got that. It's in the language because we say the numbers backwards in our mother tongues, right? So that was sure. I see the circumstances. And now let's go to the women who are interested in giving some extraordinary experiences. You mentioned the woman in Hawaii who swam a lot with dolphins before giving birth. And mind you, airlines don't take people after the 8th month of pregnancy. And then you have to consider also that after birth, this little baby is like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I don't think in any shape. Would you fly with a baby that young?
Absolutely not. I when I see babies that young at the airport, I just, oh my God, my heart cringes because there is so much radiation on the planes, and it's a germ petri
Certificate.
dish. Yeah, there's all the thousands of people breathing in the
Mhm.
airports and the airplanes, plus all those security measures that they're scanning you through the those machines. And the babies do not belong in the airports. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
the best place to give birth is at home. And the thing is that we didn't actually have dolphins physically present in the actual delivery. They were s- just on a safe distance because we were in a shallow lagoon. They couldn't come any closer. So with the same absence of actual physical, touching them, you can give birth at home or in a birth center. But if throughout pregnancy you're meditating, you're listening to their sounds, the whale songs, the dolphins talking to each other, their sounds are so magical. If you just close your eyes and go swim with them, it's the cheapest way to get dolphin birth. To please
Absolutely.
don't fly to Bahamas, to Hawaii. It's not worth it because going back with a newborn will absolutely undo all the benefits of giving birth somewhere in the ocean.
Yeah,
But also, sharks are a real thing, you know. The Black Sea doesn't have sharks, and anywhere else they would be immediately interested in
the
the
blood.
scent. If there is one drop of blood in the water,
Mhm,
which is
mhm.
very likely, and you know, something you
Absolutely. So what I have found, I mean, for example, in the Monroe Institute, one of the women, and I've mentioned it in another interview, started the dolphin healing meditations because for herself, she had had some problem with her arm, had swollen up, and then somebody said, you're so into dolphins. Why don't you imagine a dolphin coming here and using the sonar on your arm? Within 24 hours, the swelling had gone down. So from then on, she then opened up the Monroe Institute. This was the daughter of Robert Monroe, who did the Monroe Institute training, out of body training, out of body awareness training, body asleep, mind alert. Um, and they did global meditations, even online, for people visualizing a dolphin coming and administering sounds and focusing, like being their healer. It's almost like you create another, just like the Tibetan meditations, like a deity that then addresses certain centers of yours or areas of concerns, feeding vibrational intensity of upliftment to that area. And you can do that with either your areas of your body, DNA, or the baby in utero. You can self-create those meditations. You can, of course, go to people who produce those. I do produce those. Other people have dolphin meditations available. I'm not sure if you do in your channel. Um, I want to ask you, how do women, what do you do? Give us some steps of how people can resolve their birth trauma. Like, what are some of the nuggets, highlights, or maybe even something that somebody could start doing at home right now to address relieving or eliminate or transforming a birth trauma imprint?
There is a lot that a person can do on their own. It's the first of all the intention. Secondly, realizing that there is something that is consistently holding you back in life. That it's not only with birth. The birth is like a hologram of life. It's gonna like whatever makes you um, stumble and fall on your face in life, that will come to the surface in the delivery. So it's really good to address those issues and look at what is it that is holding me back.
And a
Like,
lot,
is it something I carry from like my early formative period? Is it from my mother? Is it from my lineage, from my nation? It could be sometimes national theme that that the victim mentality is perpetrated in the whole,
culture, yes.
the geographical area or culture that you belong to. So it's very important to figure out what is it you and what is it not you, because all of those things, the mothers, the national, the circumstances, are superimposed on something absolutely divine. The
Beautiful.
core of the beingness is so powerful and so mysteriously magical that it takes a lot of force to keep it all down. And what we can do is learn where is it in the body, because whatever happened in the past, it's not happening right now. It's actually technically not happening right now, except there is a holding pattern with which our nervous system is believing that it's happening now. It's not, but we give it so much power that it feels like it's in the present moment. So it's not about what happened. It's we are not what happened to us. We are our habit of like almost like addiction to suffering.
Well,
So,
also it's an imprint, and imprints and or patterns repeat themselves. If
right,
our universe runs on patterns. So we can
right,
either keep repeating the pattern or, as Dr. Vern Wolf used to call it, up level, updraft to the
right.
higher, next
So
higher expression of, a more glorious version of that.
right. So there is a lot of things that a person can do on their own, trying to like
For
open up
example,
some spaciousness inside, some deep stillness that would allow to become like this ground zero where we could come. But then there comes a moment when doing it alone is kind of reinforcing the trauma, because we were mainly left alone in our formative period to our own devices, and we don't have an intelligent history of child rearing in our species. So everyone is carrying some form of neglect, and when our needs didn't were not met,
well,
that's
let's just say that is true in the West. Let's not say that's everywhere, because I remember my favorite book was the Lithov's book about the continuum process, where she observed the
concept, continuum concept.
concept
Yeah.
where she observed the Ashwa and the Shua tribes. One of them would hold the babies close to their arm. I think, I'm not sure, I want to say 2 years. And the other one would set their children down as soon as possible. One was a worrying tribe, the other one was the peaceful version. Same here in Bali. They had the concept of not letting the baby touch the ground, the feet, until they were 1 year old, because they were believed to pick up too much negative. They weren't equipped to handle the density, so they were being loved, 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 and
Right.
held the entire year.
So I'm talking about
The
not
Western world,
indigenous cultures that carried the wisdom. I'm talking about the
Western,
civilized society that told mothers to replace the breast with a bottle, and they did. And,
right?
that leave the baby alone to cry all night, and they did. And it's
Yep.
like, what does it take for a woman to miss the absolutely luscious opportunity to put her nipple into her baby's mouth? Like some little Dr. Spock, this little miserable dude, I'm very angry with him, said so, and millions of women
In the 50s and 60s,
thought that
followed
he
his
is a
advice.
bigger authority over their natural instincts. This is like mind-blowing, right? What does it take? And that is exactly what it takes when a woman is in this misaligned state, that she doesn't know her own authority.
Right.
And then she has to be told that that's what she should do. And the point is that we need to get back into recovery of our knowingness of self, of the world, of the babies, how to handle, how to be with them. And that's the task at hand. And in my program, there is 40 very different processes and exercises. Some of them are in a group setting, some of them one-on-one with me. But the main common denominator is that they're all done in a slightly altered state. When you don't just stay in your cortex, when you know your story and you keep repeating it, it's actually reinforcing the trauma. You need to go beyond the story. You need to go into the cellular memory where those ways of holding to those hurt feelings are grounded in the
Felt,
flesh and
exactly,
bones.
a felt experience. And that's where we can say the body doesn't lie and is the anchor of our truth, even if it feels negative. I always say hooray if you felt some pain or anchored that sensation in memory. You've got the first stepping stone into freedom. That becomes the informational energy that says, what do I experience and what do I really want? Where is it pointing me? Because what doesn't work is always pointing us into the direction of where we want to go. And
Exactly.
awesome, beautiful. So, I want to share with the viewer before when we were talking off camera, you shared with me that you lived in paradise, and we all know it got burned down by some amazing forces where even you said your stainless steel fridge was incinerated, but the wooden post outside the for sale sign post didn't get burned, trees didn't get burned, but the square box houses got all like exploded and done. So you had to take your 80-year-old some mother and yourself out of that environment, drive the car, and you said for half an hour you drove through walls of fire. I would like you to share with us for a moment a technique that you use to stay centered, calm, and make it through that. Because I believe no matter what, even if it's a small anxiety or a moment of uncertainty or a big calamity, the same technique can be used everywhere to center us in our ground of being. Could you share some about that?
Yeah, well, I do not remember even a split second of panic in that half an hour of driving my car at 5 miles an hour because I was behind another car and there was zero visibility. It was just pitch black and the walls of bright flames. And I knew that all I need to do is to stay present and not faint. I knew that if I pass out, then because there was no air, that's the end of me. To stay present, I think all my life I was preparing for that moment to keep my presence of that center of gravity that I was speaking about. I was just focusing on my breath. I was clutching to the wheel. It was very difficult to open my fingers at the end when I was in under the blue sky with bright sun out of that black inferno. Um, but what I was doing was watching every breath. I had a very slow, deep breath and then very slow exhale. It was every breath counted and lasted forever. I don't know how long. I was not counting. I just was inhaling as long as I could, and then I was exhaling as long as I could with the fullness, like all my diaphragm pressing on it. And I stayed with my breath and I stayed like right behind the tail lights of the car in front of me. And I did not have a spare like space in my head for panic, for like indulging in like what if. I was just focusing on my breath and on not fainting. And it worked, but it also worked because there was no air, as I said before. But the day before, I took my mom to the doctor. It was 2018, it was before COVID, but in the lobby of the doctor's office, there was a box with those blue masks that they carry in the hospitals. And my mom, just walking by, grabbed a handful of those masks.
That is
And
precognizantly.
and it was in her pocket, in her jacket, in the car. She, oh, look what I have. So I had three and she had three. One didn't work. It was that exact magical number three that allowed us to actually breathe. And
The
there was a,
answers come before the problem. Kids all listening here, the answers oftentimes come before the problem if you are alert at a higher level.
yeah. And my mother didn't even notice how she grabbed those masks, and they happened to be in the car. If she didn't do that, we probably wouldn't have survived because there was no air. It was at some point I wanted a sip of water and I lifted my mask to drink and I put it right back down. I couldn't even have it open long enough to take a drink. It was just so intense. My eyes were watering because it was just really bad what was there in the air. But with those three masks, we came out completely unharmed. We didn't have any problem with lungs.
And what I think is interesting to point out that your mom precognitively just grabbed. And I love also that we program ourselves, that we do the right thing at the right time, whether we are conscious of it or not. We automatically get up, go and do, be, and experience whatever it is that comes from a higher directive. Our soul and higher levels of consciousness precede our time that we see, or the limited time. We can see be precognizant unconsciously and
I
do the right
know.
thing. So like your mom, do the right thing. Let's all program ourselves as often as you want in a week's time. I do the right thing at the right time. I feel it. I'm guided, guarded, and protected. Ah, you do the EFT. So is then breath is an incredible master of consciousness.
Right.
Presence.
I use it in my work too. I have a few different breathing techniques that help us. Like I mentioned, that all of them are done in that slightly altered state. So I put the whole group in that
Awesome.
slightly altered state through the specific uh, steps, and a few of them are different breathing techniques.
Right.
So by the time you go through all that breathing variety potpourri, um, you are right where you can see, like you can go there beyond the story, where you can find the switch that keeps you off and flip it on. It's
Beautiful. I so think this is the biggest adventure and vacation of our soul that we can give. Yours are all live. The one that's coming up is your very last one that you're teaching, the 6th of November, 2025. And whoever wishes to partake, I know you have a limited space. You can't, these groups are, I think, limited to 20 or something like that. So who feels called, please go. And I will put, of course, the links down below. I remember I have, for the many years, I did recreation seminars, and we talked briefly before. People experience their past lives and past lives imprint. And what I found, and I want to ask you about that, is to resolve the trauma. Uh, what I would take people into a higher place of planning to look down and pull up the enemies as well as themselves, and found out that the souls, all they really wanted to learn and do is experience love and share loving energy. Well, down here, it looked maybe like fighting and killing each other. At a higher level, it evolved to something better. When we are able to get to the resolution at the higher level, we come down here and suddenly 3D stories change. I've had numerous stories where the people went home and the father who never talked to their son called them up that day of their return and told them he loved them. I mean, how off the wall is that other people start changing when we change, which is a lot of times we think we need to change the outer world to change the inner world. Um, are there any kind of magical stories that you can share with us for, you know,
Thousands.
give us one visual, like a magical story of a woman or a man rebirthing or recreating their upgrafting
Well,
their birth
I'll tell
trauma.
you what, without going far and exposing anybody else's stories, I was born as torturously as you can imagine. I mean, my own birth trauma was behind why I was drawn into this work in the first place, and complete neglect and oh my goodness, don't get me started on that. But one of the circumstances was that I was not breastfed. And my mother, I grew up listening to the stories, how painful it is, how she couldn't do it, how it just was absolutely terrible. Because in Russian birth houses, they take away babies for 5 days after birth.
Right away. Oh God. Oh God.
Right
Still,
after birth, they whisk away babies for 5 days, and all 5 days they feed the babies with um, uh,
fake formula.
tranquilizers with sugary water to keep them quiet. And in the meantime, mothers, are full of milk and it goes sour and just the breasts hurt, and very few women can breastfeed after that. So that was what I heard from the start. This point in Russia, it's only 3 days in the state facilities, but there is a lot of private hospitals where you can pay a lot of money and then you can have anything you want. Like whatever you want, your birth plan, and they will cater to your needs and fuss over you. But in the state facilities, they're still practicing this 3 day withdrawal of the baby.
A lot of
And
that produces, even in China, they do it. I mean, it's a social, it's an imprint, right? Separation from the mother
absolutely,
is a big,
absolutely.
the child becomes much more imprintable by another source.
Exactly, exactly, because the depth of dissociation is such that people cannot really connect after that, because the imprint is I'm alone in the whole universe, and on
Right.
baby's time every instant equals eternity. So those
Absolutely.
5 days are very deeply imprinted, as there is no help, there is nobody out there to support me.
And
And
were you able, or can you tell from your story or and others that that kind of imprint can be alleviated with later on work? That deep of an imprint?
look at me. Um, yeah, basically, what I'm teaching is what I did to myself in order to claw my way out of that imprint, that I'm unlovable, that nobody wants me, that I'm alone, that I can't have friends. My first friend was in my 20s. I never had friends or any sense that somebody sees me, hears me. It was like a very deep imprint of invisibility and um, like lovelessness. That's what it was. But you asked me for an example. So
Right.
the example is that with that background, about 10 years ago, I had a friend visiting, and she was having a very nice conversation with my mom. And my mom was sharing with her how much she loved breastfeeding me.
Her memory changed. Her the history changed.
I, yeah, I was like, listen, what is she saying? And I walked in the room to like make sure that she's talking about me. She was talking about me, and she was like absolutely ecstatically describing absolutely perfect birth, and she never even knows what I'm doing. Like every time she asked me, "What exactly are you doing?" I would say something and I would lose her instantly. She, she doesn't have like where to put this information. So
But
when
it
I
changed her memory of, I mean, this is
because I worked so much with replacing my own original imprint with what I actually wanted. This is part of my amazing work. I can't even take credit for it. I think I just I don't know, dawned on me. So I replaced my imprint. I created an alternative imprint, and then I'm offering others a shortcut because it took me, 25 years to do this, and with me they can do it in one
in
workshop.
a weekend. Oh my God. I do know that is one of the guided meditations that I've done and that I had heard about was to reimagine your birth as if it were assisted by dolphins and recreate your memory pattern and just have a grand time reimagining the life you would have led if that had happened. And these visionary, emotional fantasies become part of your imprint as well. If you go with that into a deep, relaxed state, maybe even a hypnagogic state before falling asleep or sitting in meditation, recreating. I still remember where I sat and what I imagined being birthed by dolphins, cared for by dolphins, loved by dolphins. I had a home birth. I'm by my mom and my parents in the Himalayan mountains by German parents, and I got breastfed and all that. I didn't have a really, I got out in 3 hours. I apparently was ready to rear. However, I still went and reimagined my birth with dolphins' assistance. Um, Another thing is that I would like to leave here with us in the a conversation is the understanding, and that came out in another session the other day, is the traumas that we choose as soul, the traumas that we put ourselves into, the countries, the worlds, the people that we are born into, the time zones, the attachments to the people and their stories. It's not by accident we go through those traumas. They are here not to punish us. They are here to give us the grit to then digest if we're wise, and you offer tools to digest the grit and make it a beautiful creation from the compost of the trauma into what we now value even more. So the traumas make us the stronger person, the individual person, the who knows what. Um, on the worst end, that one sentence from a famous guy who said, "What doesn't kill me makes me strong," is also somewhat, in a positive sense, is like our traumas are our stepping stones to show us where we can go. And if we had it differently, we may not have developed these strengths. What do you say about that?
I actually have a process about that. It's called the benefits of our birth trauma.
Yeah.
And I usually introduce it with a few examples of my own life. For example, that invisibility trauma that I suffered greatly from, that nobody ever looked at me or talked to me or paid attention to me. Then later, when I was a young, passionate adult in Soviet Union, I was doing a lot of. Remember, you said that you looked really like a wild woman when we met 30 years ago. Well, I was I was doing a lot of like underground dissident activities in Russia, and I got away with everything I was doing. Fell through the gaps every single time when I needed to make a shift, make a difference, do something that was prohibited, do something that Russian people were not allowed to do. I did everything I wanted to do. And I'm actually writing a book right now that will have stories of that kind of activities, like those birth camps. I was organizing those birth camps, and we got away with everything. We were delivering babies with dolphins in the Black Sea. When I came to America, to a free country, I could not do anything I was doing in Russia because the regulations and restrictions set in in place here. It's very, I didn't know the rules of the game here. When I came to America in 89, I didn't even speak English. So it took me a while to gain momentum and become, the active player. But in Russia, I was active player as soon as I activated my my imprint and came into the place of alignment. I was able to be like a fully active individual that was fighting the oppressive society, basically, and I got away with it.
Absolutely. I absolutely think we all need to hear that when we liberate ourselves, you then become alive. And then you live that aliveness. And somehow you find all the ways in which you can be that alive. It is not the structure that keeps us from being alive. It is a challenge, maybe. But when you listen to all the guidances, it will allow you to be who you are. And that may take various forms. It may not be a front and center seat at the Congress or whatever, although there are some people who do that there too. But it depends on our strength, how much we can take resistance, flack, and threats. But you can be alive when you decide to wake up. And I think even in the day and age of digital potential surveillance, we need to know that what is aliveness is not something that can be surveilled in that sense. That is up to you. But my question to you is one last question, because we come into the age of AI. Um, I, so far they haven't cracked the dolphin code language. So I just want to let you know that if you hear that, every time I follow up on that research, oh, they finally did it. Like, yeah, they know this means fish and this means my name and this is that. That's all they know by now. But us, you and me, who used our telepathy, I did experiments with dolphins, and so we had dialogues and I got answers and got specific pictures and forms. But what would you say we need to be aware of in the future of how to guard or nurture or strengthen that which is our consciousness, so that we know what our essence is in disregard or in and not fall for any kind of manipulation, be it overt or covert?
I believe that freedom is an internal responsibility, that it's an inside job. That did you notice that there is not that much of it? I think that freedom is the highest in the hierarchy of human challenges. It's on the very top, because freedom, like in that innate internal freedom, is first of all a great responsibility. It's not freedom not to do anything. It's freedom to be fully alive, who you truly are in your full power. And because of that, it's a very rare state. How many people around you see that walk around in that state of empowerment, really?
Enlightenment, yeah. Empowerment,
Right.
enlightenment, whatever you want
So,
to call it, yeah.
right. So no matter what is happening, we have to cultivate that um, intention and capacity and ability to stay free. Like whatever they're doing, whatever those them, they're always coming up with another war, another way of
Distraction.
locking down or distract our attention. We have to cultivate the ability to discern and pick our battles and know that inner compass, what's true, what's not true.
and
It's
and
probably the
sometimes,
most important task.
absolutely, I'm sorry, I apologize, yes, to know the absolute compass of what is true for me right now. And I wanted to interject and say that even the challenges are part of our next becoming. So we don't live in a vacuum. We're never on an island as such. We always live in the embedding of other stars, galaxies, systems, humans, otherwise. We always are part of something. We're not born alone ever, and we do not die alone ever, because there are a million everything around us. From people, humans, thoughts, bacteria, everything is around us wherever we are. It's part of what makes even us possible to incarnate or be or even die. So that I'm alone is a joke. However, that it's an emotional state, right? But when we become aware that yes, we always live within a form, that form is also a reflection of the inner form. So the only thing we can change and have control over is the aliveness, like you said, the presence, that we pulsate, and then the forms around us start pulsating in accord with what we hold within our own vision, feeling, body. So that is the key to liberation. And that is, like you said, a rare thing. And I have to awaken myself over and over and over to, and my question I use in a TEDx talk is like, what is it that I'm feeling that may not be what I want? And what is it that I really want? And how would that feel if I had it? The two questions to create a brighter future. Because it's when I go into that liberated state, I have to pre-create out of the ethers the next evolutionary state of myself. And I love that you guide people on it. Is there a closing comment that you would like to have people take with something, a nugget or a tool, something they can download or sign up with from your site? I will give definitely the trailer to your Birth into Being, or
Birth as We Know It.
Birth as We Know It documentary, the 72-minute documentary. Anything else that we can give or hint to? You're still finishing your book, so eventually the link to your book will be down there as well.
Thank you. I can't wait to read it.
Your own book.
Well, the bottom line, if I understood anything in this life, is that love is very simple, that everything that love is not is complicated and convoluted and complex and hurtful, but actual love and life are the most simple things. That that's the truth. That's not my truth, his truth, hers, yours. That's the truth. That being in a state of love, not specifically to somebody, but its internal state of being available to love, whether they deserve it or not, whether they it is the most important experience in this lifetime. And from that place, you can actually be feisty. You can even kill somebody. Like if somebody comes to hurt my granddaughter, I will kill, like with my bare hands, in that state of love. Like you came to a wrong girl.
Oh, I see. So your state of love, what you term love, is the sense of full aliveness of all your faculties of beingness, of like being available to life.
Right.
And support that which is in support of that. Beautiful, very rich, very beautiful, many experiences you've been through. Your books, your documentaries are worth relishing. And I hope so many people, this has been now, I think, a long interview. And we hopefully will have people who watched it all to the way to the end. Thank you very much. And of course, you can find gifts in all the further nuggets you can listen to. But the most important thing is to do the work, to give your consciousness time to dive into the truth of your body and to unravel the life force so it can flow and connect back to the source. And in that aliveness, the right things will open up like gateways to heaven in your life.
Hey ho.
Hey ho. All right. Thank you very much, Elena. And all your links will be below. And I thank you very much for being here with us all this time. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Bye-bye.